All right, thank you for clicking and deciding to watch this. This is a demonstration of how I would illustrate a teapot that has metallic gold color painting on it and also royal blue painting. Those two colors often are misrepresented. And I wanted to show you how I do it. This is going to be a digital demonstration. I'm using my iPad and I'm using Procreate, and I will explain as we get deeper into it some of the different things. So let me start the recording. This is the picture I'm doing right here. So that's the picture we're going to be working on. Okay. All right. Let me start the tape. All right. So the what you're looking at right now is obviously me setting up. This is my iPad, and let me do what I need to do to get it going. I gotta put my secret code in there. There's a picture I did yesterday. I did a quick demonstration of how I did that one also. What I want to do is I want to bring up on the iPad a new screen. So let's just get one that's the screen size. This is not something I intend to print or to sell as a painting anywhere. It's just for demonstration purposes only, so it's the same size as the screen, meaning you really couldn't do much with this picture other than to print it up the size that it is. If you enlarged it, it would be probably pixelated somewhat. I don't know how many DPI it is exactly. It's probably 128 or something like that. So what I'm doing right here is I'm looking for the royal blue, sorta, okay? And I used the wheel there to get the exact opposite. Let me explain that. It's called the complementary color to the majority of the local color that this painting is going to have. This is really not a painting, okay? This is really an illustration. So the truth is, I really didn't need to do that because that orange will not be showing through. In traditional paint, oil or acrylic, sometimes it's good to, or just interesting, maybe good is the wrong word, but it's interesting to paint the opposite color on the canvas or on the digital screen, just so that you have the opposite kind of complementing it. In this case, it's going to be an illustration, so it wasn't really that necessary, but I did it anyway, kind of out of habit. So what I'm using here is some digital tools that are available through the Procreate app. If you notice, when I hold the pen or the stylus in one spot, it'll snap to either a straight line or a curved line or a circle or an ellipse. Sometimes it works. It always works, but sometimes you can use what it does, and sometimes you really can't. You have to use good old-fashioned art skills. But I wanted to show you this way because a lot of questions have been asked of me regarding using digital. I will tell you this. I really don't use digital tricks. I call them tricks. They're tools. I really don't use that a whole lot when I'm doing a painting, because I paint old school. I'm an old guy, and I paint the way an old guy paints because I learned, on canvases and on paper. But now watch when I hold this. Watch what happens. See, it becomes a circle. Well, it's going to be wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little curve and let it snap into place. Another little curve. Here it goes, and let it snap into place. And you notice I'm using the local color, the blue that I picked out. Now we're going to do like a C shape and let it snap into place. And then the opposite side. And it's very, very wrong. It's very awkward. So I'm going to have to fix it. And this is how I fix it. I edit it and just pull it down. Isn't that cool that you can do that? Now you have to make the bottom of the teapot. You can see that I'm basically drawing in the teapot. And you see how it's such a uneven line? And then it fixes itself when you use the tools that are provided. Okay, so this is a real basic drawing, like a mechanical drawing, if you will, of what the teapot shape is. There's more to it, obviously, than this. If you remember how the picture looked when I showed you what we're working on, what I did right there was I used the the feature that allows me to distort it a little bit, so that when I enlarge it, it doesn't enlarge 100% in every direction. It goes the direction I want it to go. So that's what I did there, just to make it more asymmetrical. Is that the word? Or symmetrical? Symmetrical, that's the word. All right, now what I'm doing, I'm drawing in the spout of the teapot, the opening where the hot water will come out. So that'd be the very top of it. The very bottom of it would be the part that's connected to the teapot itself, the part that goes into the teapot. And I'm using the colors. Oh, by the way, the brush / pen that I'm using is called Syrup, I think. And it's the pen. It's not a brush. It's a pen. And therefore it's doing these very pen-like lines. And you can see I'm adjusting the oval, the ellipse, so that it looks more like the opening would be for an actual teapot. Let's see what I do now. So what I wanted to say is I'm using the colors. Okay, there's the inner circle right there. And you'll see why I did that in a little bit. But the reason I'm choosing the colors is because those are the local colors, roughly. They're all changed. You'll see as we get through to them. And then you drag in the color. I don't know if you know you can do this, but for those of you who are new to digital art, whether it's Photoshop or Procreate or any of the others, you can drag it in or fill it in like automatically or instantly. It's okay, for some things. I don't use it ever, except for in certain cases, like to demonstrate, which is what I'm doing here. However, it's not a bad tool if you are illustrating. When I was younger, the work of an artist usually didn't end up as some Picasso-ish thing. And I see what happened right there. It filled up the whole page, which obviously I didn't want. So then I slide the pen to the left, and it adjusts it so that it only fills in the part I wanted. So anyway, when I was younger, an illustrator's job usually was in advertising. That's usually where artists got their work, was working. In my case, I grew up in New York, so it would be on Madison Avenue, but wherever you would live, the advertising agencies would want artists. And then, now this goes way back, when photography was introduced, all of a sudden the artists weren't as necessary because they could take photographs of things. And so there was a lot of work that was not being done by artists anymore, and a lot of that work was being done by photographers. However, there were some things that the illustrators were still used for, and there was always work. It was just different. Not that I was old enough to go through that. I'm not that old, but anyway, that's what happened there. So, but now in today's age, with digital programs like video games and movies that are made digitally, and quite often when you're looking at a movie, you're looking at this fantasy world where the background looks like mountains and caverns and eerie landscapes, and a lot of times, pretty much all the time, that is done by an environment artist. That's what they call them. And there's a big field of opportunities for artists to work in the movie and TV production world. You will not be working alone. You will be working with a lot of other artists, because it takes a lot of artists to do it. Now, there's a little asterisk next to what I just said, because I don't know what effect artificial intelligence is going to have on what I'm saying. There's probably some exceptions to what I'm saying already in place because of AI. I don't know. I tried AI for a few things. I told, you know how you type in something. So I typed in, I don't know, a cowgirl witch, and it came up with a picture, but I wasn't really that serious about it. I just wanted to see what would come up, and so that's what I did. All right, so here now I'm drawing in the the top of the tea kettle, the teapot, because there was no, I guess I could have used ellipses, I could have used ovals to make this, but I just decided to draw it in. And this is going to be gold, metallic looking, reflective gold. And it's kind of like a grasping point to lift the lid off of the teapot. So I'm going to switch now to airbrushing. So I was using a pen up to this point. Now I'm going to use airbrushing. And what I did right there is I sampled the color blue, the same color blue as in the tea kettle itself, because there's a place I need to fix. And I'm going to start sketching in. Oh, no, I'm making some darker. So what I did was I sampled the color, and then from the color that was already there, I made it a slight bit darker so that I could start to make a shadow on the left side of the lid, the teapot lid right there. Okay? You will see as I get deeper into this what exactly I did, and hopefully it'll make sense to you. But you could already see it's starting to have more of a three-dimensional look to it. I'm putting light, I'm putting dark for shadows, and I'm going to put some lines that indicate reflective surface, because it is a ceramic, it's a reflective surface. And you see right there, that's a mistake, needs to be fixed, and so I paint over it and do that. So you can start to see the cone-shaped, the top, starting to form into something less two-dimensional and more three-dimensional. Now now that we're close up, you can see that top that I sketched in is very horrible looking, and it didn't matter to me because I knew I was going to be using it as a starting point. I'm just using the dark. This is going to be gold, so gold. Metallic looking gold, metallic looking silver, metallic looking copper, anything metallic looking shiny is not one color. There is no one color. You can get a tube that says gold, a tube of paint. Trust me, you cannot use that tube of paint and paint something gold. Gold looks like gold because the truth about real reflective surfaces is that there are many, many colors that reach your eye. It's a combination of reflections and shadows, and in the case of gold, it's oranges and browns and reds and yellows, and there's just so many. And right now, it doesn't look like much, but as I develop it, as I work it, you will see it starts to have a gold look to it. So, and it's what it's a matter of how do you know how to do it. Use a reference photo. I didn't have the reference photo here to show you, but I did have a photograph of a tea kettle that I was using as a reference, and I'm looking at it as the same way you would look at a model if you were painting a model or drawing a model. And anything else, like in any time in history when artists have painted something, they either made it up out of their mind or they had some kind of reference, a model standing in place, or maybe a still life, some fruit in a bowl or something, just something to look at so that you can see all the nuances, and you have to focus. The best way, I think, to get everything right is to rough everything in, make it, and this is what I've done so far. I'm starting to get some of the details, but rough it in, get the rough shape, get the general shape, get the general colors, and get the large groups first, and then work it until it starts to look the way you want it to look. This is the case of an inanimate object, an object that does not need a likeness. Now, let me, while you're watching me finish this thing here, I want to talk about likeness just for a second. When you are painting / drawing a human being or somebody's pet, and it needs to look like that person, that's where likeness is very, very important. And so you have to be very careful to check everything. The tiniest shape or size, the tiniest thing that's wrong, and suddenly the picture of Aunt Sally doesn't look like Aunt Sally. Maybe it looks like Aunt Sally when she was 20 years younger. Maybe it looks like Aunt Sally's sister, Aunt Rose or something. And this happens, and trust me, it's happened to me. I have sketched many times in different events or resorts here in Florida. I sketched outside of Universal Studios in the resort that's right there. I don't remember the name of it. It might have been a Sheraton or something. I sketched at the Disney resorts. I would say my track record was 90%. So 90% of the time, I got the likeness. The other 10%, I was probably close. So maybe the other 9% of the other 10%, I was probably close. And there might have been 1% where I just didn't get it at all, although that usually wasn't the case. Usually I was pretty close. Usually I was right on. And what I gave myself was 15 minutes. I didn't want to take too much time. The people who were sitting to have their portraits sketched were on vacation usually, and they had things to do. They didn't want to be sitting with an artist for an hour. So I kept it down to 15 minutes, and it was a difficult thing because the line of people wanting to get sketched was long, just like all lines are at the theme parks. But these were long, and I felt bad. The person at the end of the line is waiting 2 hours or more before they get, and that's 2 hours. If I'm doing 15 minutes a person, right, that's only 8 people in line. So it was hard. I had Robin would often police the line and tell people who got online that you're in line. It's going to be at least 3 hours, and then they would say okay. And then we had this system where they would take a number or something, and then they would come back at a certain time, and that worked a little bit. But it was rough doing sketches. For my part, though, it taught me a lot about capturing likenesses, and that's where I kind of wanted to go back to. So in capturing the likeness of this teapot, for example, there is a real teapot in this world somewhere that looks like this, and I did my best to capture the likeness, but I don't know that if it's a commercial illustration or editorial illustration, and some magazine wants to print it, I don't know that they're going to worry that it doesn't look exactly like the teapot that you drew it from or that you sketched it from. They just want close enough. Now, I will say this, that for the purposes of showing you how I do this, I really didn't take as much time as I probably should have. This is only about a 49-minute video, and so normally you would take a little bit longer, maybe a couple of hours, to do this kind of illustration, and then you would fix all the different things that are wrong. There's a few things when you see the final finished picture. You'll see some things that I got wrong. But can you see right now that it's starting to have a little bit of a reflective gold look to it? I mean, and what that does, that top that slider thing, that makes the point of the brush either smaller or larger. And now I'm putting the little points. That bottom one, that bottom slider, makes it less opaque or more opaque, translucent. The upper one makes the point of the brush a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, and or a lot bigger, a lot smaller, depending on how much you move it. And I knew that in the reflective surface of the gold piece at the top of the teapot, there were some points of light that were being reflected off of it that were like real sharp, real bright little piece that like who knows what it was from, or maybe it's a light in the room or something that was reflecting off of it. So I'm using the airbrush. I think pretty much the whole rest of this picture I'm using the airbrush. This is an illustration. This is not what I would call a fine art painting. This is not painterly. What I like to do is like landscapes or pictures of people or animals that look painterly. If you look, let's see, where am I? I want to show you that picture behind me, that painting. That's an actual acrylic painting of a couple of babies at the beach. Let me see if I can show you that. I don't know, it's going to be small, isn't it? Wait, how do I get it right there? Whoops. There it is. There it is. So that's an actual acrylic painting, and I like them to look painterly when I do a painting, whether it's digital or not. I like it to look painterly. Am I drifting? I'm using a gimbal, so it's probably shifting around. Now you can see that the top part is starting to look metallic, and whoops, I just lost it. There it is. Nope, don't go away. I'm not asking you to go away. So the next thing I'm doing, okay, I'm trying to see what I'm doing here. Oh, I'm drawing the flowers. There's some floral decorations on this teapot. And so what I did was I made a separate layer, and then I duplicated, I drew one flower, and then I duplicated the flower a few times, and then I put them together in a pattern similar to the one that's on the teapot that I'm using as a reference. And I just keep duplicating them instead of having to draw every one of them. This is another digital tool, digital trick. So I'm doing a little bit of it looks like a bunch of daisies. And I'm lining them up the same way that they were lined up in the actual teapot that I'm working from. So they're now going to have to lasso that one that's hanging out on the right there. You'll see I'll do that in a second. And then pull it over. And then I'm going to duplicate the whole group of them and spread them along the top of the teapot. Yeah. And there's some mistakes I've done here. I can tell you that I probably should have made them look a little more yellow or maybe a little bit more shaded. But here I go. Now I squeeze them all together so that they're one. Duplicate it. Now there's two of those. So let's take one of them and put it down onto the top of the teapot. You see this little decorative thing going on there. And remember now, this is a separate layer. That's important to remember. And tilt it a little bit. You want to give it that perspective look. You want to give it the look like it's on a curved surface. And now what I want to do is I want to duplicate the other one again. Trying to figure out what I want to do. So duplicate it again. Come on. Oh, there we go. Duplicate it again. And then take one of those duplicates and put it down there again. And now we have two of them. And I did that until I had, I think, 4. And you'll see how I do this. It's iPad is the device I'm drawing on. Procreate is the app that I'm using. I'm not an expert on Procreate. However, I have become an expert on the things that I use on Procreate. I don't use airbrush a lot on Procreate. In fact, I hardly use it. Some people use it a lot. The only reason I used it in this painting was to kind of show you that you can kind of just brush it in as you would a real airbrush. See what I'm doing right there? I'm warping it. I'm warping the little chain of daisies so that it looks like it's on a curved surface. There we go. And then we'll have to do one more, I think. 1 or 2 more. So anyway, yeah, I'm not an expert on Procreate. I do like to use the dry brush a lot for paintings. If you go to my website, larrywhitler.com, you'll see links to lots of my paintings, and I really do prefer to do paintings that look like real paint, like you saw behind me with the 2 children, the 2 babies. Okay, now we got to make one more. Got to move that. I'm going to move it down there, and we're going to adjust the size and adjust the angle and everything to make it look like it's on a curved surface. There we go. I'm warping it a little bit. And I think the one on the right needs to be shaved off a little bit. It looks like it's a little bit too much off the edge. We'll see. Oh no, maybe I fixed that already. Or maybe that's later, because there's more daisies later on. Okay, so I squeeze them all together. Now they're all one layer. Next thing I want to do, I'm probably going to fix some of the mistakes I see. I see a blue line over on the left-hand side of the teapot lid, and that looks like it needs to be fixed. So I sample the color. Oh, I see what I'm doing. So I'm still seeing the shadows. I'm still seeing the highlights, the reflections, and I'm just painting them in there. Now here's a cool thing. I'm painting on the layer underneath the daisies. Here we go. This is where I fixed that part. So I'm painting underneath it, which means I can literally paint over it, but the paint itself goes under it. And not something you can do with digital, obviously. So just trying to make it look more three-dimensional, more shadows, more lights, more reflections. That gold thing on the top needs to be adjusted also. I probably, in the end picture, probably could have adjusted it more. But like I say, this was for demonstration purposes, and I wanted you guys, ladies who wanted to watch an actual time, a real-time video of how I do this. I wanted it to be, not as long as I didn't want to be a 2-hour video. I've done a couple of 2-hour videos on my channel. If you look at them, if you really want to watch them, maybe you can look at the pieces that are interesting to you. So I'm getting some light blue, blue-green. What did I use that for? I must have seen a little reflection in the top of the tea kettle lid that had a little bit of blue-green in it. That's why I did that. Yeah, and don't be afraid to experiment with colors. Even if it's not actually in the item you see, maybe sometimes it'll work that you're going to add a color that's just nice. It works really well, even if it's not in the actual photograph or the actual item that you're looking at. Okay, now what I'm doing is I'm lassoing the entire gold piece that's on the top of this tea kettle, and I'm going to shrink it a little bit, move it around a little bit, because I feel like it's in an awkward, wrong place. I didn't quite get it right, so I'm just moving it around, trying to get it right. And you see when I did that, it left a gap between the gold piece. Right, see that gap? You can see all the orange coming through. So I'll fix that. I'll show you how I fix that. The way I fix it is I create another layer that goes underneath the blue there. Let's see if I do it here. Yeah. See, I'm putting it underneath. There it goes. And now I'm going to paint underneath it so that I'm not painting. I'm not putting paint on top of the orange. The gold nugget looking thing. Gold ring. I don't know what that is. Okay. So you see how it's coming together already. It already looks like a reflective surface. It already looks like a golden knob at the top of the tea kettle. And just kind of playing with it, and looking around at it. The white edging there around the teapot, when I looked at it closer, it looked more like a light blue than a white. Now, I don't know if that's because of reflections or not, but it doesn't matter to me. All that matters to me is I make it look good. I make it look the way it should, okay? And you can see a mistake on the white also. You can see a couple of places where the blue lines have come into them, and you'll see I'll correct them as we get to them. I've tried doing some of these videos live so that you could ask me questions while I'm doing it. I find it really awkward when I'm trying to answer questions live and then also sketch live. I don't know, maybe I just need to do it more often, and it'll be second nature. So anyway, yeah, I see a light blue in this white edging. So that's what I painted in there. I paint what I see, not what I know. I know it's white, but it looks like it's got some reflections of light blue. Let's see. And there's some darkness. I'm just grabbed the dark color, and I believe there's a dark, like a shadow underneath it. And as you can see, I'm going to let the computer, there it goes, snap it into a perfect arch, and just fix it, add to it, do the things that the computer won't do, that the iPad won't do. Okay, so you see how the white, the edging, the white top of that lid is, it's not completely consistent. It's not completely white. It's got a little bit of yellow in it and a little bit of light blue, and it kind of has that feel that maybe there's a shadow or a reflection going on in it. Okay? So that's what I'm doing there. Again, the brush I'm using in this case is an airbrush. If you have the Procreate app, experiment with the brushes. You might find one that really is suitable for what you want to do. Like I say, when I'm doing paintings, I like to use the dry brush. To me, it gives it more of a painterly look. All right, now I'm putting like little tiny reflective areas in the gold leaf, I guess you would say, that's on the teapot on the edge. And it's just a matter of doing it lightly and then making a few darks and lights and bright spots. And yeah, you get the idea. It's kind of how gold is, how you achieve the look of gold when you're painting it. Yeah. So I'm trying to use the tool to help connect the dots with the line. It's not perfect, but okay. Yeah, so you see some of those are a little bit lighter. And then what I did was I added some dark to it just to tone it down a little bit. It looked a little bit too shiny, too bright. And that's what I'm doing right here. Again, using the airbrush to kind of just bring it down a little bit. Tone it down, make it not so bright and not so consistent. The one thing you don't want is it to be consistent in this case. So there we go. Well, we're about 32 minutes into this 49-minute video, and as you can tell, the entire 32 minutes was spent on the lid of the teapot. So another 17 minutes or so, about half the time it's going to take for the rest of it, which is easily twice the size. But that's because it's big. It's got some large areas, and it's kind of easy to work in the colors. So there's the dark area that would imply that it goes down. It's a tunnel. It's a spout, and just using the airbrush so I can gently blend it with the dark colors on there. There we go. Now the edging has to be a little bit thicker. I'll probably do that next. But you can see now that looks like, yes, it looks like there's an opening and it goes down through the spout, and yeah, it's got that look. So that looks like maybe a mistake right there. I don't know if I fixed it or not, but like I say, if I was doing this, if this was an assignment for an editorial or for an advertisement of some sort in a magazine or a newspaper, I would be spending a little bit more time on it than I am here in this demonstration. But again, it's for you guys. I don't want you to have to sit forever just to see a demonstration. So you kind of get an idea on what I'm trying to achieve here. Okay, and I'm just making it darker in some places because it's got shadows. The deep royal blue is it's ceramic and it's reflective, but it's also got some shadows. Just as the inside of the spout has some lights and darks that need to be considered. So when I hold my finger onto the screen and I get that circle, the top half of the circle is the color that I've just sampled. And then I can paint with that color. And it's usually useful for me when I want to replicate a color that's already in use, or if I want to make it slightly darker or lighter so that I can make it look like shadow or like sunlight coming in onto the surface of whatever it is I'm painting. Okay. And again, I'm calling it painting. It's a stretch because it's more of an illustration, a drawing. All right. Now you can see it's got a 3D look on the lid and on the top of the spout. And so now I'm working on trying to create the 3D look for the rest of the kettle. And I'm pretty sure that we were able to accomplish that. I'm just kind of using the colors, the shadows of the colors. When I refer to the term local color, local simply means like the color of the paint. If it was no shadow and there was no bright spot, a red wagon, for example, if you wanted to paint it red, you would have to go to one of those paint stores and have them sample the red, and you want to get that exact color. Even though in photographs, because of shadows and everything else, it's not going to be one straight color. Well, that's what local color is. And so in this case, it would have been blue and gold and white ceramic. So, all right, it's starting to come together. Now, so far, the spout does not look metallic, but you will see that it looks metallic when I'm done. And the way I'm doing that is by using the colors that I see in the reference photo. These oranges and browns and reds and yellows, and also just not accepting it. You have to kind of evaluate it for yourself and say, does that look right? Always say, does that look right? Does that look right? Does that look right? It's got to be a constant thing, because even like I say, even though you're not doing a face where the likeness is important, you still want to get it to look like a tea kettle. Okay, so a couple different shades of orange, different shades of brown, and pretty soon that's going to look like it's gold. Just like the thing on top looks like it's gold. Yeah. So thank you for watching. I'm not done yet. We still got about 12 minutes more to go, but I just wanted to take a moment to thank you. I post videos to help you guys learn. I don't want to charge anybody to learn. I'm probably not the best teacher, but you know what helped me when I was younger is literally I would look over the shoulder of artists that were working, whether it was an art show or just somebody working somewhere. The theme parks were always good, except I didn't really want to do those character, what do they call them? What do they call them again? Caricatures. Yeah, I didn't really want to do caricatures. And I didn't. When I sat and did pictures, I did portraits. I did charcoal portraits. Basically I called them the first sketch, because if you were doing an actual portrait, you would have to do a first sketch and then, fix it. And then, so this was like the first sketch for me. But anyway, there was an artist named Harold, used to work at an arts and crafts store here in Ocala. And he worked in pastel, soft pastel, and he worked on velour paper, I think pretty much exclusively. And I used to watch him paint And it was just incredible to watch how amazingly perfect he got everything. And he was very easy to talk to, very, very willing to answer questions. And so I learned a lot by watching him. And I also learned a lot just by watching like videos of from people who've done this for a long time. And hopefully that's what you're getting out of this is a little bit of understanding of how to use, in this case, the Procreate app and the airbrush, the digital in general. Yeah, there was some leaf designs on the side, and I wanted to sketch them, and that's what that is. Yeah. So now what am I going to do? I think I'm going to take those flowers, duplicate them, and I want to put them down here because there are some flowers there. So I'm going to warp it a little bit, make it go around the curve there. One mistake I made, by the way, is I did not include the flowers on the other side of the spout. So you can see that when the final picture's done, that part was never done. And so there's a mistake right there. That's why I say if this was a real assignment from a publisher for a book or for a magazine or for an internet thing, then I would definitely take more time than I did with this one. But it's a good basic overview of how to use the airbrush, how to use Procreate, etc. The tools available on Procreate, the best thing I can tell you to do is to just use them, just try them, just don't worry about making the perfect picture every single time, but have fun with it and see what works for you and what you could use, because you use one of them and you'll be thinking about it for a day and a half, and then sometime during the day and you'll think, oh, I could do this with that. All right, so now I'm taking the eraser and going to erase that little edge right there with the flowers. There. Okay, yeah, so I'm painting over it. Obviously, these flowers are in a shaded area, so I have to put an extra layer over it. And then I'm going to use the airbrush to gently make a translucent darkness to the tops of the flowers where they would be in the shade of the curve of the teapot. Yeah, you see how that works out. So now they're in the shade. And like I said, there should be some flowers on the other side of the spout, but I didn't do it. So. All right, we're getting close to the end here. I'm not done with the spout yet. I can still see through it, so that's not good. Let's see. So I merge them down, so I keep everything like that. Now let's see what I'm going to do here. Oh, I'm going to try to adjust the hue of the flowers. I thought maybe I could make them more orange. It did not work. I was messing with these things, and it really didn't work. So I ended up leaving them as they were. But I kept it in the video. I wanted the video to include mistakes. I wanted the video to include showing me trying one thing and then abandoning it, or just going on a different direction. I didn't want you to think that every single thing I did was done right the first time, because it's not the way it works. Even with regular paint, you're going to try a few things that don't work and then either undo them or work them in somehow or paint over them, which is usually the case. Okay. Now let's see what I do here. Okay, I merged the flowers all together. So they're together. Not sure what I'm doing here. Oh, okay, so I'm adding a little extra light color to the leaf pattern that was on the side of the teapot. Just to kind of give them a little bit more character, a little bit more depth. And I can use that same color for some of the reflective surfaces on the spout of the tea kettle. And as you see, it's right in front of you. It's starting to go from a two-dimensional drawing to a very three-dimensional looking drawing. And remember, the gold reflective surface is really a combination of dark browns and oranges and sometimes reds and whites and yellows and right now it's not quite there yet, but you can see where it's getting there. Okay, so if you go to my website, you will see I have a lot of artwork on there. I think I'm going to make a page on the website, depending on when you're watching this. So right now, there's no page to link on the website to the YouTube videos. So I'm thinking about doing that so that it's easier for you guys to find them. Also, well, if you subscribe to my channel, you should be able to find them easy. So you got the teapot right there. Hey, it's coming together nicely. I wish I had remembered to put the flowers on the left side of the spout. I think that would have been a lot better. Now, I have the orange background. I will tell you that I kind of wish I didn't have that on there. I really didn't need it. I think it looks better on a black background. So you will see how I did use the black background. And by the way, if you're just wondering how do you do that once you're going? Well, because the black background is a separate layer. So it's very simple to just go back in and take the bottom layer and change the color of it to whatever you want it to be. Sometimes it changes the flavor of the picture. Sometimes it doesn't do anything. In this case, it didn't really do anything because the paint on the actual illustration of the teapot, the tea kettle, is so opaque, so nothing really came through. But hopefully you'll be able to see all of that I'm talking about. So now I think what I'm going to do here, this is where I'm going to make an alpha. I think. Oh no, this is where I'm doing the shadow, as if it's sitting on a table. Oh, it looks like first what I'm doing is I'm correcting the bottom. The bottom didn't have as much of a curve as it should have had. It was a little bit flat, so I just did that. Okay, it's getting there. Yeah, I think this is where what am I doing here? I'm not sure what I'm doing. Oh, I'm just enlarging it. I'm just making it bigger so it's easier to see, or whatever. It fills up the page more, better composition. And then, let's see if this is where I duplicate it. No, now I'm going to do the shadow underneath it looks like. Yeah, so see, I take the color and I darken it a little bit, and that's how you get the feeling of a shadow here. I really didn't end up liking that a whole lot, that shadow. It was better a tea kettle just sitting by itself. Again, this is for demonstration purposes, and I wanted to keep it as quick as possible. So, but anyway, yeah, if light was coming in from that far side, that's how it would probably cast the shadow. Okay, this is not as much of a important part. I'm just scrubbing in some airbrushing for the shadow. Okay, well, it's just less than a minute left in this, and you will see how I changed my mind about the orange background and made it a black background, just for the idea of demonstrating the picture. Okay, well, there you go, kids. That's how I did it. Hopefully this helped, and have fun, whether you're using Procreate or Photoshop or any other program that enables you to do some of the things that you saw me do on here. Again, I wouldn't call this an artsy picture. I wouldn't call this painterly. I would call this an illustration. And there's my big hand in the way. Oh, I guess I ended it like this. Okay, that's it. I will add the other picture over here. There you go. Okay, now you can see the other pictures. That's with the black background. There. Okay. Now I'm happy. All right, kids. See you later. Thank you for watching. And subscribe to my YouTube channel. That helps. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me on YouTube, or you can go to my website, which is LarryWhitler.com. All right. Bye.